Stellaris was released over 10 years ago, and over that time, the game has changed a lot. Some would even say we're on Stellaris 4 right now. From planets having tiles, 3 different types of FTL travel from the start, and even weapon type selection at the start of the game. I want to see and compare what has changed over these 10 years, and whether it was for better or for worse. Now let's walk back to 2016. I am no longer an unk, I am 17, and we have Stellaris here. Now I will say 1.0 didn't actually work for me, so I had to load 1.1 here. The settings, a little bit different. This changed like 2-3 years ago, I think. We got the classics, new game multiplayer, that's all existing. New game, we only have a few starting empires. So here we have all the empires. There are a lot, actually. Jeez. And you're going to see there's a lot different when it comes to empire creation. We still have appearance, but there's only 6 different species classes, but all the classics. We got Blorg, we got humans, and foxes, of course. Now, these will actually have no in-game implications like we have now, with phenotype traits, even different playstyles with lithoids and the thermile. What are they even called? You know the ones that eat allies. We've still got nameless, and we've even got traits, with these not really changing that much over the years, just with the extra addition of traits. You can still... Now, you can only pick 4, which I think is different, right? Pretty sure. Ruler, you can still change around, but you have phenotypes, hairstyles, and clothes, like normal, pretty much. And you still got your homeworlds, but they're actually listed in actually a way cooler way. However, there's only two dry types and cold, and then 3 what we have now as wet types. But I think they still share the habitability. Okay. You can only do random soul and Deneb system. The cities, we only have 6 matching each one of the portraits. And here's one of the biggest changes, government and ethics. Now, this does look different because it says collectivist and individualist. This will eventually become egalitarian and authoritarian. These all give different things. Spiritualist is only happiness. Militarist is just war happiness and army damage. There's rivalry gain, and pop modifies for xenophobias because each pop has their own ethic. Just a 10% energy credits, nice. Just some tech output, less army damage, but less growth time, which is essentially pop growth, and alliance, influence cost, and embassies, which are basically federations and envoys, which we'll get onto later. And less food consumption when you collect this, and of course the fanatic or grow. Now let's select our civics. There are none. There are literally no civics. The only way to customize your empire in terms of gameplay is selecting your ethics, and then you get access to different types of democracies. So you have military republic, military junta, or military dictatorship, which does kind of change like stats, but there was no like actual game implications changing up how your empire actually plays, like the modern day ethics that we have. But it's fine, we've got origins to mix that up, right? No, there's no origins. Origins weren't added for a long time in Stellaris. I believe it was 2020, which is 4 years into the game, which is insane because origins are really the lifeblood of Stellaris in modern day, I'd say. You build a lot of your empire around it. Mental. We have empire name and a flag. Not many types of flags or colors. The main way you can also customize your empire and get different gameplay out of it was to choose your starting weapon. So you have projectile weapons, energy weapons, or missiles, and you could literally only use these, I believe. May have been able to research different ones, but as you start, you'd only get these. Like the video right now. Thanks. And the second way, of course, was the FTL method, with warp travel generating a subspace bubble around a ship, essentially allowing you to travel wherever you want, kind of like Star Seekers now. Hyperspace travel is what we have now, just using hyperlanes, which is funny that it's not recommended for new players because that's all we have to start with right now. Wormhole allows you to generate tunnels through subspace and establish a conduit between 2 points. Essentially, you'd have to make wormhole stations to go between places. These ended up making battles and actual territory very complicated, kind of like how we have hyperlane travel right now. And then, of course, we have ship appearance, which doesn't change too much. Let's start with the UNE. Now, if you want to customize your game, you've got plenty of options. But in 2016, we didn't. We can change the size of the galaxy and the shape, the amount of AIs, advance, the difficulty, which was normal, hard, or insane, and if any FTL method was allowed. The fact they had a setting for this and nothing else kind of shows why they took the route they did. Now, when you first get into the game, you're going to actually have to survey your starting system, which kind of makes sense, but also not. Like, if you think about how Earth, we kind of already know everything about the planets in our system, so why do we then have to send a science ship to survey it? But it also kind of makes sense, right? Like, we've explored it from Earth, but not up close with a science ship. Counter argument, we sent probes to a lot of these things. There's literally a rover on Mars, so maybe we should have started with this surveyed. You can still get resources from these, and these actually mattered back then, and it's kind of what they're trying to make 4.0, especially 4.3, have. Systems need to matter more, which I actually like. This is one of my biggest issues with 3.14, is the systems didn't really matter because relatively these were low. As you can see, we only have 7 energy and 9 minerals, so getting 3 energy from these, that's a big deal. Now, you might have noticed we only have 2 resources, and the UI does look a whole lot different. That's because in 1.0, there was only energy for upkeep and minerals for building things. That's right, if we wanted to build a Corvette, construction ship, science ship, they would all be minerals. There are no alloys at all. Now, to actually feed the populations, there is food, but food is actually confined to the planet. So this food is not shared across any other planets you might get. It's kind of like how Civ works with pop growth. You need food locally to grow it. I kind of like how there's lots of different resources to balance in modern day Stellaris, like you've got energy, food, minerals, it's your basic, you've got alloys and consumer goods. You've then of course got unity and tech, you've got influence, and then you do have your strategic resources, but I like it. It's more balanced. It makes sense that minerals get turned into the more advanced stuff. I like it. Now, to get resources, you need to come over to your planet, and that's where we have tiles. A lot of people love tiles. Now, most planets, these can change the sizes of these. We obviously have blockers still, but we have a 16 size planet, meaning only 16 pops can work here. And it's kind of like a little mobile game almost, where you're getting adjacency modifiers. So our capital's here, which means they're giving +1 output to anything on the side, meaning this base 1 energy gets upgraded to 3 because of the power plant. And then it gets an extra 1, and then we get 20% because we're fanatic individualists, giving us that 20% more to 6. So there's still like some sort of min-maxing you can do with buildings. Like we could build a basic science lab, which will produce us 1 research of each. Yep, 1. We're at 5. The numbers are so much smaller. Then we got the energy, we've got a silo if we want more capacity, as we only have 5,000, and obviously the hydroponics farm. And you, of course, can upgrade these things. Technologies still existed, so you can just get a physics lab that produces more tech, or an edict that just gives you 25% of food using your influence. Influence was much more important for things like edicts and interacting with people. You can get 15% energy here. Then once we've researched those, we can build the lab, which then we can upgrade, and these can upgrade into different things. So it could be the engineering or the physics. So now we're producing 2, 1, 2 because the base tile had a 1 there, but we're not actually getting anything because nobody's working there. So we'll actually have to drag over the pop to then work here, which is quite insane. And we also have this happiness bar showing how happy they are with, of course, individual traits and their ethics. There was a lot more emphasis on the pops rather than in 4.0 where there's just like tens of thousands of them, where they're more grouped together. But I kind of like 4.0. There's a lot more you can do with combinations of stuff. I like min-maxing a little bit. I like making ultimate specialized planets or really cool planets. Sure, we can build a power hub here to make this more energy. This will give 10%, and then we could just try and build as much energy as we can with like power plants and stuff, which could remove other things. You of course want to wait for pops to build before you over expand. But I feel like tiles, they just feel dated. I know people love them. However, I really do like the 4.0 system now that it has been fully bug fixed. And what's funny is these rare resources, if you can find them through your text and they get revealed, they do unlock really specialized buildings that we no longer have, like the Granthium Forge, giving ships just 10% ship hull points. That's kind of insane. And I do miss assisting research. What's crazy is we did actually have robots, and you could actually just build them. So as you can see here, I'm actually just kind of building them. There's like a growth that needs to happen with them, but they'll slowly tick up every month, and we'll actually just get a robot. Robots were quite strong. They do, however, kind of suck for anything but minerals. You could research your other weapon types, and I did see mapping hyperlanes as a technology briefly, but I didn't research it. There it is, hyperlane mapping. We can now see the hyperlanes, but we don't actually have the drive, but you can get upgraded warp drives, which is pretty cool. What's really funny is you're actually locked out of colonizing planets if you don't have the specific colonization technology. You can only do your base types, which is weird, because why can't we just go and like kill ourselves on the planet, you know? Capacitor shields. The techs look crazy, and some of them are stuff we just don't have anymore, like planet fortification toughness. Now there's of course no auto explore on your science ships or surveys, so you had to go and do that yourself. First contact was also weird, like we're not actually doing it with envoys, we actually have to research them. Things are just flying across the map over us where they can jump, because like we of course don't have to go in a line, we can just like jump over here. And starbases weren't really a massive thing, like there were starbases of course, but your influence grows. This border has just been growing, so you don't need to place a starbase in every single system. We don't even have a frontier outpost in our capital. We can build one, but the starbases come with the planets, and to actually build destroyers and cruisers you need to actually upgrade the spaceport. And then you have like assembly yards which let you build them for cheaper. And there's a lot of like planet buffing stuff like pioneering terminal, orbital mind control laser that just don't exist right now. Even an observatory actually buffs up your technologies, which is quite cool. So for instance, we have Alpha Centauri here. We can click to colonize, and then we actually have to place the colony. So a lot of people would like min-max where you're placing these. It can't be on blockers. You essentially want to hit like good tiles so that you get those buffs. What is cool though, if you click somewhere, they will try and warp and queue it up, which we don't have for jump drives. So now we have this border. You can see the expansion of this influence. And we have finally met someone, which also means if, say, there was 2 colonies in a system, 2 empires could actually have these 2 planets, and the border would kind of be split, which I kind of like, because it's really binary with how we just can only own one system in 4.0. Also, the UI being up here is very weird, and there's text literally to increase your border range. So if we increase our border range here, you'll see we actually now encompass here, which should mean we can build mining stations here, which is quite funny. Like we have no starbase in here. This is just ours now, and the outposts even have a little missile deck them. Speaking of, we do have a ship design still, and corvettes are kind of similar, but we can get medium slots on them and quite a lot of components here. We then have the destroyer, which is 2 lots of pretty much the same, but with a large slot, and medium, that's pretty much the same. We have large, 2 small, 1 medium, 2 medium on the cruisers, but we have no auxiliary slots. We just have medium and large, small and stuff. It's so similar, but not. Even the combat computers, they have aggressive that charge in, formation. Like these are all so similar, but not the same. You can even design your construction ships, I guess, if you want to like make sure they defend better. But like, why would you do this? I don't know. You don't really have the power for that. Even your colony ships can get upgraded, transport ships, and then we have defense platforms. And guess what? You can design your star bases in 1.0 and not 4.0, which is quite funny. These are of course different to what the star bases are. The frontier outposts, which do have designs, and you can't actually build on them. It just extends your reach. So if we went over here and built a frontier outpost, it extends our border, but you can't actually build anything on them. Those designs, I believe, are just for the ones on your planet, potentially? I'm not actually sure. What is a fortress? Let's give them focus arc emitters, and then a whole bunch more power. There's even like fortress snares. What the heck? Oh no, the fortress was an actual thing you could build. If you haven't told, I actually never played 1.0, so I do like coming back to look at what we have. Yeah, the fortress is a thing. It's just a thing you can build. Like Deep Space Citadels, they add them back as DLC. They're sneaky, Paradox. Can you build them anywhere? You can build them outside of your border. What? Okay, that's insane. I really like that. That like little mini fortresses that you can build and design, like you can just plop down. I mean, we have them in Deep Space Citadel, of course, but they're in megastructure cap, which is a little bit annoying. I mean, of course, with battleships, there are no X slots, but there's a lot of customization you can do with battleships. Yeah, there's a lot of that. Now, the key thing as well is that you're actually limited to 5 planets that you can directly control. And the initial philosophy was that you'd have sectors. So you could create sectors out of your other planets, which then would reduce your directly controlled, but now we don't actually control this planet. So now the AI would actually start building this up and basically being like kind of like a vassal. But it's very similar to how like sci-fi stuff actually works. The capital of the empire can't really manage over thousands or hundreds of planets. So they have a core set of systems, and then they can just designate stuff like let's make you industry focus, and then you contribute 75% of your energy and minerals to us, and then we can send you some stuff so that you can actually build up. I kind of like this. Stellaris can get really when you're managing the entire galaxy, and really, how would you have that much control over it? But having this sector stuff is actually quite sick. We also have a nice budget tab to actually see everything that's coming in and out. We do just get that from hovering over energy credits now. We have Empire Edicts too, that is normal, and some policies which we can actually change around. However, there's a few different policies like war economy with military production efficiency at different war scores, leadership, not too much there, and then demographics. We also have leaders, which this existed for a while before Paragons was introduced, which I do like Paragons. Essentially, we have a leader cap and different leaders, and they actually have a star skill level instead of just a number, and they get traits. These traits are random, you can't pick them, and you can recruit them for influence at different skill levels. The skill level does have effects, but it's not like we have now, and you cannot put a scientist in charge, for example, anymore. We of course have admirals and generals. Generals and admirals were merged, which I do agree with. We don't need all of them. Reducing the amount was nice, just down to the 3 key planets. And dealing with other empires, with governors, federations, etc. We're actually being attacked by pirates, and they're hitting our fortress. This is why we have the fortress. Goodbye. And diplomacy and stuff was different. We did have alliances and vassals, but the only way to actually getting good relations was just establishing an embassy, and you could only have 4 embassies at the same time. Very EU4 coded. Of course, now have improved relations. Screen, we have improved relations. We can improve. We can do commercial packs. There's still war, but the war system is actually completely different. You can actually have war goals, and you can filter by searching. You drag over what you want, so we could liberate a planet or establish protectorate for different goals and stuff, so you can actually customize what you want. And then when you're in the war, you can actually peace out for different things. If we actually go ahead and do this war, and then we go to negotiate, we could select different goals that we had, and they would accept or not accept depending on what we did. There's also actually different victory conditions. With a domination victory, win the game by owning 40% of all colonizable planets, or conquest victory, win the game by conquering or subjugating all other empires. There's still 17 other independent empires left in the galaxy. Of course, now we have the victory year in the point system, which nobody uses. Domination and conquest kind of feel the same. I guess conquest you can subjugate, whereas domination you're gonna have to make your sectors and stuff like that. Just for 40% of colonizable planets is mad. And it looks like they had room for more victory conditions, which they never followed through with. We do now have the crisis paths, of course, but they could have gone like crazy with these victory conditions. There could have been like scientific victories or culture victories, kind of like how Civ does the victories. But they really wanted to find that win condition. Why do people play? But a lot of us, we just play until our personal goals are done. There's of course no mega structures, no slavery, no purging, but the game is just very, very different right now. And I think overall it's for the better. If you've played 1.0, the core systems are there that you can see, but there's not too much depth. There is obviously the crisis which you can get to, but it can become a little bit stale. And I think over the 10 years, the changes Stellaris have made overall are for the better. Let me know in the comments if I forgot anything. Now, with all this 4.0 craze and nomads coming out, you're going to need to know the best way to start. So click here to watch the best way to start playing as a nomad, and I'll see you there.